do you remember when we were in the same position? I think you were in a similar position not long ago, like a couple of months ago, right?
Yeah, feels like yesterday.
Feels like yesterday. Well, how did it work for you? How did it go for you?
um, well, thanks for asking. I mean, besides the event itself, which was that was my mic, which was super exciting, and it comes with all the anxiety and the thrill. I think following How to Web, several things happened besides the prize, which turned into a funding round for us. So that's great, raising more money. But some of the things that were kind of side effects that we couldn't foresee, but turned out great, were, I think, one was press coverage, even though that was mostly Romanian press. It gave us a sort of a stamp of approval, or the clout that we needed to be able to attract talent better. The talent market for development and design is pretty competitive, and having that exposure in the media helped us a lot. There's several things that we also benefited from, but first I wanted to circle the question back to you, because I think you were in the same position several years ago. So
Yes.
how was winning How to Web? How did that turn out for you?
Yes, yes, indeed. Something like, to be honest, I don't really remember the year. So if anyone like Alexander or anyone else can tell me exactly, I've been to a couple of How to Web editions, but I participated as a startup, I believe 3 or 4 years ago, before I actually had a real, like I had a vision of a product, not a real product. I got into the final, the 10 finalists that actually pitched on the big stage of the National Theatre in Bucharest. InnerTrends did not win that competition, but in the same time, the company that did win the competition, if I'm not mistaken, is not on the market anymore. So it's not all about winning; it's also about grit and staying on. Um, for us, it's already a couple of years, but still, How to Web. I remember very, very well the moment when I actually had a discussion with a mentor who, like, it only took 10 minutes of discussion to set up a roadmap for a full year. I actually did not stay to the end of the full event to say goodbye and thank you to everyone. I ran home and started working because I had clarity so so well defined in my mind. So for me, it was indeed a very, very important point going forward. Since then, many things happened to InnerTrends. We also got accepted to 500 startups, to the 500 Startups Accelerator in San Francisco last year, where we had 4 months of an amazing experience, which are another pivoting moment for InnerTrends and for our growth. So yeah, talking about growth, I know like we do speak a lot about our products offline. So I know your product has been growing nicely in the last period. Have you reached product market fit? And if yes, when was that moment? And how did you identify it?
Okay. Well, that's a $1 million question. Just a bit of a parenthesis. Nations is a browser-based platform to design, prototype, and hand off game systems. So we appeal to game developers. It's a tool in the browser. You work collaboratively, and we monetize via a SaaS subscription. Now, product market fit. I think you mentioned previously that what matters is the grit. And I think that's what it takes to reach product market fit. To quickly answer your question, we have reached a product market fit, but for only one of the functions that we want to fulfill, and that is design. Machinations does a lot more than that. And actually, during How to Web, I realized while being in a talk with a mentor in a coaching session, just like you said, it took 10 minutes and then you went home and you started jotting or working. I first found out about, or I first realized that we need a product designer. It was during a talk with a product designer from Dropbox. Excellent guy. And he also mentioned, well, I'll tell you what he mentioned afterwards. But, product design, for us, the product is the interface that it is what users get. And I went on this quest of finding the right team. The fact that we had press coverage helped us find UI and UX well, specialists or experts. We started working with them. And I don't want to bore anyone with the details, but we started using tools for design. And for anyone that knows the design market today, it knows that it can be pretty fragmented if you use stuff like Sketch, you use InVision, Adobe XD, and then something like Zeppelin for handoff. And we went on through this process of designing Machinations using tools like Sketch, which files would get uploaded to InVision for a prototype. And then the handoff would happen in Zeppelin, where we would write comments. Those comments would be sent by a bot in Slack. Long story short, it turned out to be a mess. And it turned out to be a mess because we weren't using the right tools and processes. And the quick answer for that was Figma. And if any of you are familiar, you know what I'm talking about. If not, just Google it and you'll see how Figma is changing the design and authoring market. And it made me realize that we have a lot of resemblance to what we're doing in our industry and with our tool. So while previously we were developing the tool and all our communication was around the functions that we thought we nailed, at least in communication, which is design, simulate, and balance. This is the stuff that came out of our initial customer discovery interviews. Working with tools, seeing our users interact with the app, getting all these feedback, I realized that we need to serve the same functions, which is design, prototype, and handoff. It was like right there under our noses. And we're going through that transformation, or at least aligning our strategy for product in the future as we speak. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. Product market fit is a process. And going back to that parenthesis, and I'll shut up after this, the thing that the product designer mentioned, or the resource was a book. It's called The Messy Middle by Scott Belsky, and I recommend everyone to, at least skim through it. And the theory in there is that while the media and these type of events tend to focus on the start and the exit, like, yeah, we want How to Web, and yeah, we did an IPO or whatever. There's a big gap in the middle, and that's the messy middle where product development happens and where business growth happens. So it's a process. It's going on. We've learned a lot. How to Web and the coaches there helped a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the way you put it, and it's a simple sound that changes everything. It's a product market fit. It's not the product market fit. I think that's very, very, very important, because many people see product market fit as a line which you cross. Yesterday I did not have product market fit. Today I have product market fit. Which in our experience, it's nothing like that. It's a very big gray area where when you are inside it, you don't know where you are exactly. Are we at product market fit? Should we do this? Like, is this the thing that we need to get more to get there? It's like, it's very, very fuzzy. However, if you do have the grit and if you do stay on it for the long term, and if you do listen for customers and you do understand needs, there will come a moment when you won't ask yourself, is this product market fit or not? That's when you are on product market fit, when you don't need to ask this question anymore. It's like, if this is what we learned, and we obsessed so much about product market fit until we got to a point where we realized that we didn't talk about it for a long time. That's when we realized, yeah, it's part of the past. Like, there's something else that we are focusing on right now. And I think that's very, very important for everyone to understand, is well, no, I'm not in a position to give such statements, but what was very important for us to understand was that, yeah, it's not a line, and it's an area that can take less or more to get over it. It's important, but it's not.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
It's
not. It's
the
not a line.
journey, not it's about the journey, not the destination. Okay,
Yeah.
but talking about listening, because I think in the audience, at least in the pitches, we saw several marketplaces today, and perhaps the services and the tools that us two have may or may not be fully relevant for them. How about we talk about some key advice that we got somewhere in this journey, which greatly or decisively changed things or influenced our future. So was there any key advice from, a mentor, coach, business,
Uh,
or just
yeah.
investor?
So it's a funny thing about me. I'm not sure about you. A funny thing about me. I'm an introvert. I'm a guy who likes to work alone in an office, never be disturbed by anyone, and just do my stuff. Um, and I don't think like what was very important for me was to learn to open to the world, to talk to the world, to network, and to increase my network basically. I remember there are two pieces of advice that I got that changed, like again 10 minutes of discussions that changed a lot for the life of my company. One of them was indeed in one of the How to Web editions, not sure if the one I pitched or not, which was from Intercom, the CTO of Intercom. I had the chance to talk 10 minutes with him.
Lovely
um,
company, lovely product.
yeah, it was. He basically that 10 minutes discussion set my roadmap for the next 12 months. So it made it very clear what we needed to focus on, and it only took him 10 minutes. The other amazing piece of advice I got was from a competitor, which was crazy. So when I was in 500 startups in the summer, one of the companies that we knew that we need to grow bigger than, be better than. The growth person in that company was a mentor at 500 startups. So I said, like, he's a mentor, I should be able to talk to him. I called him, and I was very aggressive in trying to get 10 minutes of him. And in those 10 minutes, he told me all the challenges, all the problems he had at growing that company, which I never thought about and I never paid attention to. And I had a big, thanks to him, I had an amazing, like, I didn't need to waste 1 year to learn what he learned. I changed my starting point to much, much sooner. And that again changed. We doubled the revenue in the next 3 months only because of his advice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's, that key intel, which can save you months of wandering around. Um,
But you got something very similar, right?
yeah, we did. We did get a lot of this advice, and there's several key moments that I would like to talk about, but I don't think we have much time left. I would like to mention the advice that you gave me over that cup of coffee 2 months ago. Remember, we were about to
Yeah.
launch our monetization model, which we just did like a few weeks ago. And I was getting this cold feet of, did I nail my pricing table right? Did I get all the features right? And you said, just launch it. Just stop at this. There's people that want to pay you money, and just go ahead and do it, because it's still about the process of iterating and nailing it, later, preferably than sooner. But other key advice that I got, I think, after How to Web, when I mentioned the whole product design function and what that means, the relationship between design, development, and the product owner, I was having kind of a similar sparring session with Vladimir Wana, and I asked, how do you do things? How do you develop your app? What's the tool stack that you use? And he said Figma. And I was getting to that point in the process that I realized Figma was the go-to tool. But then who is the Figma master? Like, who's actually going to do the screens? Where do you find the proper UI UX guy? And he said, well, it's sitting right in front of me. I'm looking at him. It's you. It has to be you. It's I think in most of the cases in startups, the entrepreneur is obviously, there's co-founders and there's a team, but there's typically a single go-to person, which is the product owner. And he's in the best position to take all the input from all the functions, like all the user feedback, all the stats or the development or the constraints that a startup typically has, what's the market trends, what the market insight is, all of those things. And it's so hard to take that knowledge and hand it over to someone that, at least for us, I mean, I tried that, it didn't work out, and realized that product design and ownership needs to sit with me. And that's just something I can't get away from. So for him, it was plain obvious. For me, it took a few months to realize that painful lesson.
Amen to that. It took me 2 years to learn the same lesson. So yeah.